Hi, I'm Ashlee Marie, and today we're making one of my favorite comfort foods, and that is homemade clam chowder with cornbread. Seriously, I love soups, I love fall, I love cold weather so that I can eat soups all day long. Anyway, I'm so excited to share this with you. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss all of my other fall foods coming up, and let's get started. The first thing that we need to do is to peel and chop our vegetables. Now, I use potatoes and onions. I'm not a fan of celery, so I don't use it, but my mom and my sisters always make their clam chowder with celery, so if you like celery, then it's a great one to go for. Potatoes, onions. Now we want to cover our vegetables with enough liquid to boil them, and we're going to start with 4 cups of clam juice. Now, if the 4 cups of clam juice doesn't cover your vegetables enough, you can also add some water. It kind of depends on how big your potatoes are. Usually I use pretty big potatoes. I like to have a lot of filler, so I usually end up adding about a cup of water. And finally, salt.
Now bring that to a boil and boil it for about 15 minutes until our vegetables are tender. Now in another pot, we're going to make our thickener or our bechamel sauce. This is going to thicken the chowder and make it nice and creamy. We're gonna start by melting some butter.
And once your butter is melted, you wanna add some flour, and then you want to stir it into a paste. Once the flour is all incorporated, you want to add a pint of half and half. Once your vegetables are cooked through, you want to take that thickening mixture that you made and add it in. Add some pepper, and you probably need to add a little bit more salt. Now it's time for what makes this clam chowder versus just potato chowder, and that is the clams. Now, I use minced clams because I don't like big, huge chunks of clams in my soup. In fact, the reason that I use 4 cups of clam juice and then I don't use very many clams is because I like the flavor of the clams, but I don't like all of that chewiness. So more clam juice, less clams. You can always use less clam juice and more clams if that's your preference. One thing you want to make sure you're doing with soups is to be constantly tasting them. Yes, their flavor develops more over time, but you want to know earlier rather than later if you need to add more salt, if you need to add more pepper, because adding all of those adding spices to soups later won't help their flavor as much as adding those flavors earlier. So we just added the thickening, we just added the clams. I'm going to take a quick taste. It's really hot. Oh, I need a little bit more pepper, but my salt level's good. And that clam flavor is coming through really great. The potatoes have it, the onions have it. We're almost ready for dinner. And I always make my homemade cornbread to go along with my clam chowder because you can never have too much comfort food, am I right? So the first thing you want to do is add the cornmeal. Then you want to add the flour, the sugar, and then the baking powder. And finally, some salt. And we want to whisk that together. Now we're going to add our liquids. We have our milk, our oil, and I always use olive oil. I get a lot of questions about olive oil and baking, but personally when I use vegetable oil or canola oil, I feel like my baked good tastes rancid. So the only thing that I use canola oil or vegetable oil for is for frying, and I use olive oil in all of my cooking and baking. And last but not least, the eggs. Look how good. And it only takes a couple of minutes to whip this up. Prepare your pan. Take your cornbread mixture and pour it directly into the pan. Now, I like to bake mine in a 9x13 pan. That way I can cut it to whatever size that I want. And I like the center more than I like the outside, but that's just me. You can also bake these in muffin tins if you prefer. Personally, I like just throwing it in one pot, baking it and being done with it rather than all the scooping involved in that. And let's face it, this pan is way easier to clean. So you want to bake this at 425 degrees for 20 to 25 minutes in a 9x13 pan. If you are doing muffin tins, then about 15 to 18 minutes, and this will make 24 muffins. And then it is ready to serve. It is a nice sweet cornbread, so you can serve it plain, or I like to add sweet onto sweet, so of course I add some honey butter. And we're all done. It smells amazing. You have dinner in an hour and a half, warm, comforting, thick. I can't wait to give it a try. All right. Really, it just doesn't get better than soup. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of the other fun recipes that we have coming up for fall and for Halloween and for Thanksgiving. Leave me a comment down below. What is your favorite comfort food? Or even better, more specifically, what is your favorite soup? I love stews, I love chilies, I love clam chowder, but this one always has a special place in my heart. So thanks for watching.